Hi from Group W and welcome to today's topic, Performance Appraisal. Performance appraisal is part of the performance management. Performance management aims to set the expected performance from employees, while performance appraisal is a system used to assess employees' performance and achievements over a designated period of time. Performance appraisal can be either objective or subjective. Most of the time, it is done through benchmarking and conveying the results to employees. The question here is, why performance appraisal? Why do we think it's an important topic? With companies nowadays structured in a network of teams and having bigger scales than ever before, increasing emphasis is placed on aligning goals, providing feedback, and coaching employees. According to Deloitte Insights, nowadays more than half of the companies in the world are using performance appraisal, and 79% of the executives rate it as a high priority. With the aid of performance appraisal, benefits are well acknowledged. By giving bonuses and constructive feedback based on appraisal results, employees are more motivated and they will perform better in the future. According to Deloitte Insights, 90% of the companies using performance appraisal have seen direct improvement in employee engagement, indicating that performance appraisal is a critical topic at workplace.
Hi, I'm Costa and I'll be looking at the different performance appraisal theories. So we see three main schools of thought in performance appraisal: traits-oriented rating method, behavior-oriented rating method, and the results-oriented rating method. Traits-oriented rating theory is quite advantageous because it provides a holistic view of the employee, of both their efforts and their goals. However, it is quite vague to categorize employees into good traits and in itself is quite subjective to the inherent biases of the candidate taking the test. It is also fundamentally flawed, as traits have been shown to have a low connection to job performance. Results-oriented rating theory has the advantage of aligning the company's objectives with the employee's goals through a system known as MBOs, or management by objectives, in which a candidate achieves set goals known as KPIs, or key performance indicators. However, results-oriented rating theory is criticized as it doesn't take into account the employee's efforts, leading to demotivation and relies on a constant supervising process for a feedback loop for the employee. The last type of performance appraisal is behavior-oriented rating theory, which is great for providing complete feedback to the employee through a wide variety of complete tests that can be taken to show this holistic appraisal. However, like trait-oriented rating theory, there are inherent biases that influence an accurate representation of the candidate's performance, and as such can explain why there's so many different types of tests, trying to mitigate these features. Now let's take a deep dive into the performance appraisal method of behavior-oriented rating theory. BARS, or behavior-anchored rating scales, focus on relevant behaviors for the job and plots them on a scale in which a candidate rates themselves along this scale to which they believe they embody certain behaviors. The advantage to this is that it is a simple method for candidates to take. However, to design a BARS test is quite complex and is not yet proven to be completely accurate. Another such test that we'll be discussing is force distribution, which allows candidates to rate their peers along a normal distribution of a large, average category and equally smaller size excellent and poor categories. An advantage of this is that it's quite simple and tries to remove any inherent biases again of being too friendly or too harsh. However, the disadvantage of this is that it is oversimple and demotivates employees because no matter how hard they work, there's still a low chance of them being given an excellent score.
The most difficult aspect of performance appraisal, according to the managers, is differentiating between the workers who do not stand out from the crowd. Females tend to give higher ratings than males when evaluating performance in simulated work setting. And in a majority of cases, supervisor raters gave higher ratings to subordinates of their own race than to those of a different race. However, in a later study, this effect only accounted for 2% of rating variance. Younger supervisors were less lenient in their ratings of subordinates, where a study later on found that there was no effect of supervisor age. Raters who were low in self-confidence were less lenient in their ratings of subordinates than those high in self-confidence, and those high in anxiety tended to use more extreme response categories than those lower in anxiety. Raters who were poor performers tended to disagree more with consensus ratings of subordinates than did the more favorable performers. The effect of raters' leadership style on ratings has also been examined. They found that production-oriented supervisors gave low ratings to subordinates. A later study reported that raters who were high in consideration were more lenient than those who were high in initiation of structure. Regarding BARs, behavioral anchored rating scales, the typical judge is not cognitively prepared to summarize and abstract adequately from a great many observations if no record has been maintained. Substantial improvement in the psychometric quality of BARs when the scaled incident procedure was used instead of the checking procedure. However, when compared with other scale formats on various psychometric characteristics such as leniency, dimension independence, inter-rater agreement, and discriminability, there are small, if any, differences. Looking at Table 2, behavioral anchored rating scales is included in Other and only makes 20.4%. Regarding force distribution, recently, Schleicher and others in 2009 have experimented raters' reactions to force distribution, and that rating decisions are perceived as more difficult and less fair compared to a traditional setting. If we look at Table 8, the mean value obtained was 2.78, which means that the respondents rate force distribution below average in comparison to absolute rating. And senior employees prefer absolute rating to force distribution much more than their junior employees. Now on to Constant with a case study on Mystic Technologies.
Mystic Technologies Private Limited is a software development company that provides premium IT solutions worldwide using IBM, Java, and Microsoft technologies. Mystic Technologies distinguishes itself as a company driven by excellence in terms of quality and on-time delivery. The case study provides an example where force distribution has been used ineffectively as an appraisal method. In the case study, Mystic Technologies has recently signed a large contract that required a project to be completed in 5 months that would require 120,000 hours. This required 100 employees working 150 days at 8 hours a day. Due to client demands, this timeframe was reduced to 3 months, which required 160 employees instead to put in an average of 10 hours of work a day to complete 750 hours of work per employee. In order to complete the project, Mystic Technologies tried to engage employees that performed the most efficiently based on prior year's data. For the project, Mystic Technologies adopted the force distribution method to rate employees. Employees received a pay packet consisting of a fixed and variable allowance based on their grade. As you can see from the slide, these were the distribution grading systems that were utilized, with 9% given a poor grade to up to 15% given a star grade. Although the project started off smoothly, an eventual lack of enthusiasm developed due to there being a strong dissatisfaction amongst employees. This lack of enthusiasm stemmed from 1. A skewed force distribution grading system, which resulted in the majority of employees receiving ratings of 3, 2, and 1, and 2. Sentiments that no matter how hard employees worked, there was a good chance of them receiving a poor rating.
Mystic Technologies responded by changing their utilization of the force distribution method to a project-specific level to a company level, which renewed motivation with employees. This, however, led to dissatisfaction from employees working on other projects due to the increase in competition between different project teams. Subsequently, the change resulted in 1. Significant decrease in the morale of the organization, resulting in chain emails, resignation threats, and subgroup meetings, and 2. Revolts occurring during the next appraisal, resulting in a flurry of resignations, including star performers. Hence, Mystic Technologies is a situation where the force distribution method was utilized but worked against the company's best interests. In order to improve their performance, introspection with Mystic Technologies appraisal system is required. Here's our references, and thank you for listening.